Hey traders, and welcome back to IFX Success, and let's talk about this fantastic EA, the robot. And what is the robot about? Well, pretty much the first thing that we want to go over is that we have 3 robots on the one robot. And what does that mean is that you're going to have different strategies, different filters. But before we start, we need to understand first how the strategy works, which we can have multiple type of entries and exits, because it all depends on market structure. So the first thing that you need to know that we use 2 types of block entries. One is called the reversal entry or reversal block, which is the one color in gray, which happens first usually. And then we have here the second one. I'm going to move this over, which is going to be the trend block, the one color in green and the one color in red. You cannot really see them as much, but that is pretty much what 2 blocks base is going to be based. So what is really the strategy here is that we want to look for higher time frame entries. So right now we're looking at 15 minutes. We want to go either to 4 hours and look for blocks in there and look for smaller time frame entries based on this trend, right? So right now it says that we are on an uptrend. Of course, we have to consider other factors. We need to have other filters in which we have to tell the robot to consider, right? Because there are times when we do have a block, it could repaint. Many people say, oh, I don't want an indicator or an EA where it repaints. But you know what? If you don't want that, you're in the wrong part. You're doing the wrong business right now, because this is something that the market moves ups and downs, and we will not be able to know 100% when is it going to stop either going down and when is it going to stop either going up, right? So the best idea that we used in here is that once we get a block, let's say right now we have a block, a downtrend, then what we do is we want a retracement, or at least something close by that we can resell again. So in here we didn't have major retracement, so what we're looking for is either M or W formations, right? So once we get something like this, we're not going to enter right away blindly. We need to look for some other factors, and the best thing would be to look for an entry on a smaller time frame when it's given. So let's say maybe something in here, we could have gotten maybe a 15-minute entry going in the same direction of this block in here. Then here the market retraces back. It's not really that close, but it's something that is really pretty much close enough, right? So in here we would have had another re-entry, pretty much retest of this zone on a smaller time frame, which we look for again on either 1 hour or 15 minutes or even 5-minute entry going in the same direction. So now what type of filters do we have? Well, I put in a lot of filters in there, so we can have hundreds and hundreds of variations. We can have the daily mid levels. Once we find out that we are in a trend, we would like to be below the prior day mid level. The prior day mid level, we can see it much better on a smaller time frame. And what does that mean? What that means is that once it's fixed, prior day is already fixed, already happened. So let's say this right here is the prior day mid level. So this acts as a nice support right over here. So the market went down a little bit and we were able to get here a reversal block, and the market went up a little bit. Right now it's kind of rangy, although I think we are in a higher we're going in an uptrend, right? So what are we doing again? We're expecting the market to retrace back to keep on going higher. That's the expectation. Is it going to do it? We don't know, because we cannot read. We're not psychic traders. We cannot see totally the whole future, but at least we can expect something to happen, right? Something within that conditions, right? So also we have here the daily candle, 4-hour candles. So let's say if I wanted to buy, at least maybe I would say, hey, to go with the direction of the 4-hour candle, or let's say if we get right here an entry alert, which is an open block right now. Once a candle closes above it, then we will get an entry alert, right? That is, hey, now we're going up for sure. Well, not for sure, because nothing is for sure, but if I can tell the robot, hey, listen, only enter when it's above prior day mid-level, when it's going with the trend on the 4 hours, 4-hour block, and also let's say going with the daily candle. So if the daily candle is bearish, then it's not going to trigger an entry. So this is what all the filters is all about. So let's actually kind of, now that you have an idea what we can work in here, let's talk about the robot. So the robot is going to be an IFX block EA because it is based on blocks, right? We have the reversal block and the trend block. Then after that, we can just add any filters that we wish in order for us to, kind of filter and get better entries. So why do I say that we have 3 robots on the one? Well, because we have many filters. We have strategy 1 and we have strategy 2 and strategy 3. So what can we do with that? Well, the best thing about this is that strategy 1 can be a scalping entry. So we can say, hey, if you like 5-minute or even 1-minute entries, which I don't really suggest, then you can have strategy 1. So let's kind of jump over. Let's ignore this for a second. In regards to the EA, it's a really complex EA, but it's not really that hard. You're going to have a manual, which is right here, which is going to tell you everything on installation, what everything means, so that you can actually go over it when you don't have, if you don't want to see the video. All right, so let's talk about this. So again, strategy 1, this is strategy 1, and we're gonna have different filters, and strategy 2 has the same type of filters, but since we can change numbers, we can change any time frame entry. So we can say, hey, strategy 1, let me have 15-minute entries based on this type of filters. Strategy 2, which is all independent, totally different from strategy 1, it can be also, hey, another maybe half an hour entries on blocks on half an hour, and so on and so forth. So 3 strategies on 1 robot. All right, so let's go over right now what all this means. Again, we're kind of going to ignore what all of this right here. So we have manual trading settings, we have auto trading settings, we have money management that, if we want to do enable money management, means that if we want a daily account risk drawdown, so maximum 3% based on your account balance, or growth, so once it reaches a percentage, then it's going to stop trading for you. Okay, so you can have this as manual and auto trading. So this is also the best thing. If you don't want it to enter trades but you want to get an alert, you are going to get an alert. Okay, right here we can also have enable account percentage lot size, so you can also have your lot size based on your account percentage. So this is also going to be great, so you don't have to have a fixed lot size. Once your account starts to increment or starts going higher, or if it starts to decrease, then it's going to be based on your account balance. So that's the best thing about this. Now, maximum retest allowed. So pretty much, how does the retest work? Meaning that once we get a block and the price goes back into it, so let's just say, for example, right now we have a reversal block, right? If price comes back inside into this block and then closes outside again, then that is called a retest. So meaning that how many retests, because we can have multiple retests, we can see that more often when the market is ranging. So we can have 1, 2, 3, even 4 sometimes I've seen. So how many times, how many retests are we going to allow for an entry? So you can also have that capacity to say, hey, I only want 1, I want maximum 2 retests. So I can put in here 2 retest entries if all the filters are met. All right, so let's go on with the strategy. So right over here we have enable strategy 1. So again, we have 3 types of strategies, so we're gonna work on 1 right now only, because the other 2 are just pretty much same thing but different filters. So what do we have in here? Block type. So again, we have 2 types of blocks. We have the reversal block or the trend block. So we're going to choose the trend block. Right over here we have an option for either block entries. So what does this mean? Is that once the market or the price closes outside of this block and is created, that will be the first entry. So this will be the block entry, the first entry right here, the first signal. then let's say you only want retest entry. Let's say you want only the price to come back in here to give you a retest again of this block, so then it's going to do that. Or you said, give me everything, I want both of them, I want a block entry and I want retest entry, just to see if I can have better more entries, and see if I can filter them myself or whatever, right? So we can say both. Okay, now block time frame entry. So we're going to choose 15-minute entries, so with the time frame 15 minutes, right? And block settings, we're going to choose 60. This can be modified. We can put 34, which is going to be more entries. We can put a higher number, which is going to be less entries. So that means it's less blocks, right? So the higher the number, the less blocks, and the smaller the number, the more block entries. Now, this is kind of tricky over here. In the entry, a block candle high or low. So what does this mean is that you see this block in here, we have this candle right over here. So sometimes there are times where the market gives us a block entry and then it just reverses back, but there was never, the next candle never went higher than this candle, right? So what this means is that, hey, only enter if the price goes higher than the block entry candle, which will be this one, and enter higher, of course, if we're buying, and enter lower, of course, if we're selling, right? And then we wanna give it maximum candles to happen. Well, there are times when the next candle doesn't go above it, or the next candle doesn't go above it. So you want to just say, if 2 candles doesn't go above that block candle, then forget it, don't even enter for me, right? Also, what this means is we're giving candle time for all the filters to work out. So if I have this as false, well, guess what? This means that everything needs to meet. Every single filter that we put on in here needs to meet at the same time when this block candle happens, okay? When this happens, then every single filter must meet. But if I give it extra candles, then maybe in here on this candle, maybe if I say, hey, go with the daily candle, let's just say, for example, then it took this candle to finally reach to the daily candle direction, or X filter, right? All right, so now higher time frame block filter. Yes, we want to enable that because we want to go based on a higher time frame trend, which, you know, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I mean, it's just because 4 hour is on a trend does not mean that a buy entry is always going to work out. So now I'm going to say yes, and I'm going to choose, for this example, I'm going to do a couple of examples. We're going to choose the reversal block, okay, on the 4 hours. So 4 hours right here, and I'm going to decrease this number to 34. And we're going to see type of different results and see what we get. This is filter number 2, daily mid level. We're going to say false to that one. And here's filter number 3. We have candle direction filter. We're going to say yes for this type of example. We're going to say no for another one, just to kind of see what type of entries we get. So true, and I want to go based on a daily candle. So if everything happens but the daily candle is bearish, so let's say right now we get a block entry, and if this is bearish, well, it's not going to trigger an entry, right? So pretty much all these filters is that if this is true, please give me an alert or get me in, right? Okay, so now filter number 4 is going to be based on moving average. We can choose on the same time frame block entry moving average. We can choose higher time frame trend moving averages, and we can change pretty much MA period. We can change the method exponential. I mean, this is like hundreds and hundreds of things that we can play around with the filters. So this is not just a set and forget robot. This is pretty much an every day where you can change filters and play around with it and see, maybe if the market is trending, so that you can change that filter to be on a trending market. And if you see that it's ranging, so maybe you can tweak it a little bit. That's why you have different strategies where you can actually play around with that, right? Okay, so now we have filter number 5, which is the MACD filter, right? Which, you know, we really didn't go over much in here, but you can see that also on the manual and on the course video. Now, we have here filter number 5. We're gonna stay true. We're gonna pick 4 hours, and we're gonna go based on the signal line on the MACD. Again, you can change this as well, the MACD, so we have more options in here. When we have all the filters, filter number 6, this is actually added, filter number 6, ADR period, ADI filter, and lastly, filter number 7, which is going to be based on Bollingers. We're gonna, you know, again, I'm going to give you examples on different type of filters just to kind of what kind of results we get. And again, you have to play around with the filters. So here we have take profit options. Take profit options. We have TP1 over here, and we have different type of options. We have ADR percentage, or we have reversal block, meaning that let's just say that we get, if we buy over here in this reversal block in here, and then we get another reversal block at the top, that means it's going to get us out. Okay, ADR percentage, you know, that is based on each pair, which, let's say pound dollar, the ADR is 89. So we can say, okay, this pair moves around 89 pips per day, right? So let's just target at least 50% of that ADR, which will be about 45 pips, right? So what I can do in here, instead I can change this around and say ADR percentage. Instead of putting fixed pips, 35 pips, I can just say, hey, look for 50% of the ADR for that type of pair, right? So it will be 89. So really we're looking for 45 pips instead of 35 pips in here. So we could do that, or I can change this around a little bit more, 40%. And again, with the stop loss, it's almost the same thing, stop loss, ADR, or reversal block. So I'm going to have stop loss of 0, and everything is going to be 0. We're not going to put a stop loss in here just for this example. And then we also have trading stop. I mean, again, this is really complex. This was a really well thought out robot. Now, we can have trading stops if you want, and we also have full and half trade strategy. Okay, so enable TP1, that means yes, we want a take profit, which is based on the take profit in here, or we also can have a TP2 based either on pips as well, or even Bollinger. So if it meets a Bollinger, you know, if we enter in on 15 minutes, and once it gets it meets a 4-hour Bollinger, higher time frame Bollinger, then it can stop you out on that if that's what you want, or you can also have it as any pips. So we can just say, just for example, right now true. So if my first one is about 40%, then I can say, hey, look for 60 pips on the second part of the trade, right? So it will close half of that trade as 35 or 40% of ADR, or it could, and then the second trade would be either 60 pips, or if I choose the Bollinger, then I could just say, hey, once it meets that Bollinger of 4 hours, then close the other half. Okay, pretty much that is how it works. So right now we're gonna have this as false, and then the rest of strategy 2 again is the same thing as strategy 1. It's just that you can change the filters. You can have a variation of different type of entries. Again, the market does not move the same way every single day, right? So if today is trending, then we can have maybe strategy 1 to work, and if tomorrow maybe is ranging, maybe strategy 2 will work better than strategy 1, and so on and so forth. So this is the ability of this robot. So right now I'm gonna go to OK, and we're gonna run it on pound dollar, and we're gonna have it just for a few months, because then it's just gonna take forever and it's gonna take too long. Okay, so now finally we cut the results. Again, you know, this is quite too long, but it's okay. So you can see here it's a $1,000 account, and we finished with 1,200. We can see the graph, you know, it was pretty much very steady. You know, we have, this is our equity line, so it was not really that bad. Here's our results. So total net profit was $226. We were 5% drawdown, so we have short positions, 4 of them were won. Obviously, because I didn't really have a stop loss, right? The stop loss can really change everything. So here, long positions won, 17 of them. Again, because we don't have a stop loss. If we would have a stop loss, then things would change. Again, so we can take a look at some trades in here that, again, this is 4 hours based on 15-minute entries, right? So we would enter here again. Here we would have had a nice move to the upside that maybe we could have let this trade run a little bit longer. The same thing with this one. This one moved down a little bit more, so we could have had, we were in drawdown definitely in here, and eventually came back down to it. Again, in here we could have had more pips in here, I guess, if you could say. So we have definitely some good entries that just made it to the upside. This was based on, again, on the gray box, right, that I changed it around a little bit. So what could the results be? So in here we just kind of put that it gave us 21 trades and we made $226 in here based on $1,000 account. Here this was good. Maybe we could have let a little bit run a little bit more. So that was pretty much it. So now let's just change our settings just a little bit, just to kind of see what we can change around and see if maybe we can get better results, or maybe the results might get worse. Who knows, right? We're gonna leave this one. I guess we can put our trend block and maybe leave this to 60, or maybe even 34, just to kind of see what we get. Let's just leave it 34 just to kind of see what we get. And I'm going to remove the MACD in here, okay? So now the only thing that we have filtered, that we have removed, will be the MACD, and we're gonna still leave the candle direction. And maybe what we can do is to add the daily mid-level. What this means is that if we have a trend and we will only want, if we want to buy, we want to buy above prior day mid-level, or we want to sell below prior day mid-level. So let's change it up a little bit. We're gonna add this to true, and just to kind of see what we get. You know what, I'm gonna leave this as this, just to kind of see within the same category, right, of what we had, just changing up one filter. So removing the MACD and adding another one, just to kind of see the results on here. So we're gonna work it the same time frame, same everything, just to kind of see what we get now. Okay, so finally it's over, and let's just see what are the results for this one. Based on what I saw, they're pretty much the same. Oh my god, it's almost the same. 21 entries as well, 226. So really the difference was nothing, absolutely nothing. It was the same exact thing, right? So okay, so now what we're gonna do is, maybe what we're gonna do is add something else. We're gonna totally change now our I'm gonna change this to 4 hours, and I am going to remove this for one over here. I mean, I'm just playing around in here just to kind of see. We're gonna go here now based on Bollinger's 21 and maybe also ADR, and then that's it. Sometimes, of course, the more that we add, and this is going to be false. And let's just try this out. I'm not sure what we're going to get. I've never tried this over here. All right, guys, so what do we got here? Let's see our results in here. This didn't do much in here. It gave us 10 trades. Before actually was 26, 21 trades. We only made $100 in here. Drawdown was 5%. So here only we had short positions 2 and 8 positions up. All right, so this is one of those things, you know, we have to keep trying. So again, the more filters that we have, of course, the less entries that we're going to get. Does not mean, you know, more filters the better, you know. And of course, you know, we have to pretty much play around with this, right? There was just something else that I wanted to show you, that it was so you can choose another time frame. Let's say, you know, if you want to choose 15 minutes, 30, half an hour, maybe we can change this for a little bit, and maybe we can change this in just in case if kind of going too much. I want to change this to 8. So what does this mean is that, hey, I'm telling the robot, enter on a reversal block on 30 minutes with the 34 settings, meaning more entries, right? I'm telling it that in order for it to actually work out, I want on the MA that on 30 minutes, the moving average, the candle, the block candle, reversal block candle needs to close below or above the 8 moving average. And what I wanted to also say is that also follow if the Bollingers, if the price closes outside of the Bollingers on 4 hours, then look for an entry. This is a little bit more risky, but let's just see how it works out and kind of see what we get in here. Okay, so unfortunately with this one, we did have some bad entries that where the market never reached, right? We had a big drawdown in here, which unfortunately was, I think, these entries over here. So yeah, so you know, we probably will have to add a better filter in here, maybe add going along with the reversal block or something like this, or go with along with the candle direction. I'm not sure, you know, but let's see the results. But there were some trades that were, you know, really good, like this one, but I really think the results on here, well, what do you think? It was 247 with a profit factor of 2, 34% drawdown. That is quite big. But you know, if we have a good money management, meaning that we're not going to over leverage or something like that, it is going to eventually pay out, right? We have 16, we have definitely a lot more trades in here, 36 trades, so 16 and then 20 long positions. So that is something that, you know, we can play around and see how we can filter better this type of entries. But we did have some entries that could have run for a long period of time, like this entry right here. You know, we probably pretty much left a lot of on the table, you know, like right here. Also this sell entry went back up again and eventually kept on going lower. Also these buy entries over here, they could have had the possibility. That's why we have a TP2 where we can actually increment it for a little bit, you know, 50 pips or 60 pips, and then that could, you know, maybe better off the entries, right? To some of them, and to some of them not really. So that really, it all depends on market conditions and what we want. So like I said, the best thing about this EA is that not only do you have different type of filters that you can play around, like you have an infinity way of playing around with the filters. You know, sometimes, yes, the more we have, the more complicated we can make it, but you know, at the end of the day is how we manage the entries and, you know, have money management and stuff like that. And also, like I said, you also have different type of strategy, meaning that you could say on the first strategy we using 15, you know, let's say 15 minutes. On the second one we can use half an hour entries or 1 hour entries. We can say 1 hour. And on the third one, we can use it more for long-term entries, right? For maybe 4-hour entries and stuff like that, or a different type of settings within, another same entry settings, but we can change the filters just to kind of see, we can vary our entries and kind of see what we get, right? So that's the best thing about this EA, is that you have possibilities. This is not just a set and forget. Again, this type of entry in here was based on Bollinger. So if I put my Bollingers in here, which was based on 21, I believe. So every time the market is outside of the Bollinger, it's going to, if it was ever outside, then when it's gonna look down on a smaller time frame and look for an entry, right? So every time it closes, so here it closed outside of the Bollinger here too, so that's why it gave me those type of entries. Same thing in here, had closed already outside. So pretty much we can bring it from Bollinger to Bollinger. Here was an entry, and then we could have gone out in here as TP2. Here it gave me another entry, but it actually never really reached to the top Bollinger. Here we had a couple of entries where it almost reached to the top of the Bollinger. So we can play around going from Bollinger to Bollinger. Here we had a couple of entries where it also reached to the bottom. And unfortunately, we had this one, which, it just kept trending up and up. So that is something that, like I said, needs supervision. If it gives you an entry that you don't believe that it was actually a good entry, you need to take hands on, and then eventually what to do is set, put a stop loss, or you get it, you get out and say, no, this was not a good entry. So this is not just put it on and then see you, I'll come back in a month and see how much it has given me. Or, this is more, yes, it's going to filter out trades for you, because we don't have the capacity to actually do it ourselves, or especially looking at so many filters or many different factors, and then look at so many pairs. So you can put this on 5 or 10 pairs, and then it's going to give you that filter already, something that you would do. But now your job is going to be, hey, was this a good entry? Maybe not. Let me just, either put a stop loss, or if this is going in your direction, use a trailing stop and see where we could head into and stuff like that. So then that's where you're gonna take over and see where the trade can get to, right? But again, you cannot work alone, because it's hard for us to actually see all many pairs and be able to filter everything. Because yes, we can make mistakes, or this can actually take the emotion out of trading, enter for you, and then all you have to do is, once you're in, then worry about the exit, right? Worry about, have your tight stop loss, and then pretty much worry about that, your exit and your take profit, and then work from that. So here we had another good entry where if we would have let it run, it pretty much went from top Bollinger to the bottom of the Bollinger. This was also, it didn't really give me an entry here, unfortunately, but this was from top Bollinger to the bottom of the Bollinger, and then here too, from the bottom to the top, and so on and so forth. Sometimes they work, sometimes they do, but so it all depends on the filters, it all depends on market conditions, and so on and so forth. So this is it. If you have any questions, join the Telegram channel on the link below, or you can also visit the website, and you can contact me via email, and just pretty much the robot, you can get it along with the indicators, with the reversal and trend blocks, and pretty much you're gonna have the manual, which is right over here. It goes, we talked about every single filter in here, right? Moving average filter, how does it work? So making sure that the signal candle is inside. If the signal candle closes inside the moving average that we specify, it could be 21, 13, 8, whatever it is that you want, you can do that. Or you can also use it as a higher time frame trend. We can use the 200 exponential, which is a very famous one. So if the price is above the 200 on a 4 hours, then it's going to look only for entries on 15 minutes or whatever time frame that you wish. Here we have also higher time frame filter, right? That we have spoke about this. So pretty much how does it work? So that means that We can have a 5-minute block entry based on a 1-hour block trend entry. We can have a 15-minute block entry based on a 1-hour, 4-hour block entry, 1-hour block entry based on 4 hours on daily, and so on and so forth. So here it is, the specifications. I also give you how does this work, prior day, mid-level. So this is prior day, mid-level. So what we're looking for is we're looking for a block that is happening inside here, right, below it, and then the other way around if it's above it. So those trades work out very nicely because those are trend trades. This is based on the daily mid-level. Here, candle direction, MACD also. This is pretty much based on the signal line or only on bars. You can do that as well. So you have tons and tons of variations that you can have and play around. Yes, sometimes, it can get anxious, you can get like overwhelming, but it's not that hard, okay? And then I give you some type of variations, examples that you can play around. So here, this is example number 1, 15-minute entry. So this is, let's say, you're gonna put trend block, entry type. You can either have the block or both. Block time frame 15 minutes, setting 60 or 80, and then we can have the MACD true 15 minutes. This is very simple. This is it can give you a lot of entries. We already tried this. It can give you a lot of entries that are good or bad, right? So you can see, and you can then pretty much scalp it. This is more like a scalping entries. So I give you different variations that you can play around. Some of them get more, we can add in more filters into that. And then we can also talk about the 1-hour filters. This is examples of what you can set on, or you can have your own variations and try on your own what is it that you like, right? So I give you examples of 15 minutes and 1 hour, but this also gonna work for 5 minutes. This is also gonna work for 4 hours or even half an hour entry. So this is pretty much based on to you. So what I'm giving you here is that you have to mold it to your personality, okay? This is a robot or an EA that it can be molded to you. This is not just the one that is being sold that you can buy that is just set and you're stuck with that. No, this you can change it around. You can add things, change numbers and stuff like that, which is actually very, it's one of the best ones out there. You got scalping and you can have day trading or even long-term trading with this. So that's pretty much it. Let me know what you think. This is using the reversal block over here. So you have a ton of examples, and you can join the Telegram with a bunch of traders where we talk about the strategy and how we can improve it and how we can better ourselves in here. All right, so traders, subscribe and like the comments, like the video, write any comments, and I will see you around.